Hey, Con, you know anything about Transformers, the Hasbro property that they only bought from a company out of Japan, kind of, to resell the toys and rebrand the show? Yeah, the Transformers is essentially another Super Sentai product, which I think Hasbro also owns the toy rights to that as well.
Of course. I used to love the show Cybertron from the third millennia. That show with the keys. I was always too big for the toys once I joined the Imperium, unfortunately. But I once got Perturabo to make one for me in my size. It was a Prowl remake from the animated series. That show was also underrated.
Wow, you're a man of culture. Well, I've already done a review of the Transformers RPG, but I wanted to talk about it again. I've been running the TTRPG for about a month or so, maybe two.
Oh yeah, that game made by Renegade Game Studios. The company has had a lot of misses, and this game was probably their first real attempt to figure out their custom system, the Essence 20 system. This is considered one of the best in that system, which primarily utilize licensed products.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, did you watch my videos?
No.
You actually have. Holy shit, I thought you hated my shit. And yet, you've been watching my videos.
Look, know your enemies is a term to live by, but the more I learn about you, I come to a conclusion. Standing here, I realized you were just like me, trying to make history.
And who's to judge the right from wrong? When our guard is down, I think we'll both agree that violence breeds violence. But in the end, it has to be this way. Yeah, see? We ain't so different. The only difference between you and I is the fact that you're physically capable and I'm small. Very small.
Yeah, you're what? Half my size?
More or less, yeah. But I've played this game for about a month or so I've learned a little bit about the Essence 20 and have some more questions still, but I want to make some corrections. So, I think the most confusing part about this system is the skills. Each stat, or essence, has 4 skills and 3 plus empty slots in each. You'll get a number of points to spread across the 4 abilities, as I mentioned in the previous video. Strength, speed, smarts, and social, it's 16 points to spread around those 4. Now, with those points spent, each must have a minimum of 1 point, but no more than 15, which is really not possible with just this, but other things boost the stats, so that's how you get that number. Now, the number of points that have gotten into that stat, you have that many points to spend across your ability skills. You can spend these points to unlock skills, gaining a D2 with your D20 roll. You can spend more points to increase that die size, called ranks, and you can spend points to gain specializations. Now, the specializations is a bit perplexing. Those blank spaces under each skill, you'll get a specialization, which are not the skills, but how you hyper-focus said skills. For example, the alert skill falls into smarts, and you say you roll a d8 with it. You can choose to put specializations into it. Say you chose a specialization perception, or something more specific like visual or perhaps investigations or something like that. Well, now when you're told to make an alert skill, you can ask the GM if your specialization in that skill applies. If you're told yes, you can roll the d20 and the d8 and all dice beneath that d8. So you'll roll the d20, d2, d4, d6, and d8. Now you'll then pick the best die and add it to the d20. So for example, say the d6 landed on, well, a 6, but everything else got 4 or less. You'll then add the d20 roll, which let's say was 17, plus the 6, and you'll crit because that 6 landed on 6. Now, originally I was going to complain about this until I read more about the system and realized this book is just horribly organized. This should have been explained a lot easier. Honestly, more games need to look at the One Ring book, which is written magnificently. Now, there's also some words used in connection with skills. Edge and snag, for example. Edge and snag can go one of two ways, kind of. You roll 2 d20s, and you take the higher or lower. But don't confuse this with upshift and downshift like I did when writing this script, as those boost up or reduce the size of the skill die. Now, situations depend on which one you'll use. It doesn't necessarily say what situation calls for which one, but I've got an idea in my head. When you are shell-shocked or under heavy stress, utilize the 2d20 option. But when, let's say it's a new tech you need to learn, but have time and ease of moment, utilize the skill die one. Or maybe it's something you're overly familiar with, at which point, again, utilize that skill die, or in that case, could go either way, really. Of course, some class abilities can change things about this too. For example, the science class. At level 1, they get an ability called Broad Understanding. It lets you roll all science skill checks as though you were specialized in it. But it also says any skill tests outside your specialization take a 2 die size negative, downshifting. Now, what does this mean? Does it mean that any science skill you roll as though it's specialized, but you take a slight nerf to it if it's not your specific specializations? Or do you take a hit to all other skills aside from the science skills? I'm debating on this, but I think the former is probably better, as if it's the latter, you essentially have no reason to put points into science at all, or tech if you chose the gadgeteer subclass. But at the same time, the other one means you'd need to hyper build even to be viable, so I can see both visions being fine. This game is a lot of fun, but I've still got a lot of complaints, mostly with how it is difficult to get answers out of this book. I found out that there's a book meant for all Essence 20 games that answers some questions and gives some recommendations to cross gameplay. So G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, Transformers, and My Little Pony in the same game, which there's comic books that cross over that. The Transformers and My Little Pony one is actually kind of... Look, it's a good comic, especially this line out of my favorite character.
Does that say friendship superior?
Yes, it does, but I've still got to complain about something. What the hell does threat level mean? I've been looking all over the place, and the only answer I've gotten is out of the Power Rangers book. They assumption is that a squad of 4 level 1 characters can take out a level 1 threat with little issue, so it's CR, but a level 1 threat only has 2 hit points, thus a single level 1 can be done away with in half a round if there's 4 players, so that doesn't seem likely. I think it's a 1-for-1 level to threat thing. Hell, the round system is also a little surprising. You get 1 action per speed point you have. So if you have 1 point in speed, you get either a move or standard action every round. 2, you get both. And every point after gives you free actions, which some abilities let you attack, move, or other things with that. There's probably more things I've got to point out with this book, but I've got to get my hands on the Combiner book and the Decepticon book too, and in March will come the Beast Wars book, which I'm actually excited for. I wonder if my friend still wants to run that Power Rangers game. But I need to cram my brain with Shin Megami Tensei knowledge before next week, so shove off.